Alrighty, so this is my opinion on One True Mate by Julie Treadle. It's the first book in the Weston Pack series. I keep trying. I will say, I did not hate this one. Didn't really like it either. The whole book follows Kelsey, a young wolf shifter who is on the run. She doesn't know that she thinks she's a werewolf, and she ends up running into the territory of the Weston Pack, and it's all about her falling in love with Kyle Weston, the eldest son of the Weston family. So this one, it is another mating situation where it's like you see your mate and you just smack. Yes, I love you. But in this one, the author does something a little interesting with it, but at the same time, there's a lot that I'm just like, huh? Is that Kelsey doesn't know about other werewolves. She thinks that she was turned into a werewolf by a bite because she was attacked when she was really young. Wolves killed her parents and she escaped. But she got bitten and she turned for the first time, so she's just like, oh shit, I'm a werewolf, but it's not controlled by the full moon. She just gets antsy every now and then and has to turn. So she thinks she has to stay in hiding because she's a monster. So she ends up with working for Kyle Weston, and Kyle, as soon as he sniffs her, he's like, "Oh my God, you're my mate." And he's just like, "Why isn't she acknowledging this? What's going on?" And she doesn't. There's like protocol you're supposed to follow, where you're supposed to go talk to the alpha of whatever pack's territory you're in, and she doesn't do that. But he knows she's his mate, so he basically gets his dad to back off and be like, "Hey, she's cool. Can we not run her out of town because she's a lone wolf ignoring protocol?" And then, so this starts out with her getting the job there, which is really just an excuse for Kyle to be close to her. And they do, then it skips 2 years into the future. So she's been working there for about 2 years. She's become, like, she's become friends with his two sisters. And then, God, I can't even remember what. Oh, yeah, she gets attacked by some assholes. And that's how she finds out that Kyle is a wolf shifter, and she starts learning that, oh wait, they're not evil. And that's the thing, is like, she plays it where she's like, oh, I'm thinking that werewolves are monsters, but then when she meets Kyle, she's like, well, I know Kyle's not evil, and then she finds out he's a shifter, and it's all, oh, shit, sorry, I forgot my mic is not in place. This is probably better. She's like, oh, well, he's not evil, okay, starts coming to terms with it, blah, blah, blah. They mate, and basically then the whole thing is that when a pair is going to mate, one, you're supposed to get permission from the council, which they don't do, but they beg forgiveness. And the whole premise is that there is your one true mate, hence the title of the book, which is your perfect mate, your soul match, whatever, true love shenanigans. The problem is that your odds of finding one are really, really low, so they go for compatible mates, so someone that you're good with. I don't know exactly how the compatible mate thing works, but someone you're compatible with, but it's just comfortable. It's not a true mate, and Kelsey and Kyle are true mates. So part of the thing is that once it's come out that you're going, yes, we want to mate, people can issue challenges to you to, say, no, nope, I want to, be their mate. Fuck you. I'm going to fight you to the death for them. And most of the times it is to the death. It's actually considered a sign of weakness at some points to show mercy. And that's the thing, is this author gets a little wishy-washy with it, where she's like, oh, it's a sign of weakness to do this, but she also has other characters call it like their most barbaric tradition. So it kind of feels like non-committal on what their points of view on this are. So, and that's the other thing, the big twist, which, okay, let me finish with it. Like, you have to know this. There's a big twist with this, is that you find out, and trust me, this is something, like, when you find out this exists in the books, I was just like, she's one of them. She's, come on, is that you find out that alpha wolf females are apparently super duper rare, and most of them are killed at birth because they're, like, super strong and impossible to control. I don't know why. So you find out that, there was,
you find out that there's an alpha wolf female thing, and then you find out some stuff about Kelsey, and you're like, yeah, she's one of them. She's one of them. She's one of them. Oh, guess what? She's one of them. It takes, I think, a little too long for them to come to that realization, personally, just for how obvious it is. So, anyway, there's the fight to the death for being a mate, and she sets up the next book in this one, which it's whatever. And then Kyle ends up killing, I think he's Bulgarian guy who was after Kelsey because she's strong and, she's also hot. And he ends up killing him, and the Bulgarians cry foul play. And they're like, we want a full inquisition into her, blah, blah, blah. And of course it comes out that she's an alpha wolf, blah, blah, blah. She's actually from the Bulgarian pack. Her parents ran her away when she was a little girl. And she had 2 sisters that were killed. She was a set of triplets. And then there's a small fight at the end where Kelsey and Kyle kill the alpha of the Bulgarian pack, and then the Bulgarians fuck off, and it's not a problem anymore. Basically, the Weston pack is like one of the biggest ones, and and there's like a werewolf grand council that's like, we have to kill her, and the Weston pack basically tells them, fuck you, we'll go to war over this, and they totally just back down. It's really a non-issue. Ends with Kelsey telling Kyle that she's pregnant, happy ever after, set up for book 2, where it is Kyle's sister falling for another guy, but they say that for like the true mate thing, that sometimes people fight against it. It's the whole, I don't want to give in to my fate sort of thing. Fuck you, fate, which is fine. So that's a general overview of the plot. As far as the characters go, Kyle, I don't really have any real complaints with. He's your typical alpha male person. He's nothing really exciting and nothing really bad either. I mean, his whole point is like, oh, I want my mate, I love her, blah, blah, blah. And there's like one point where they talk about that he's a foodie and he's a chef, and I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting, and then it never comes up again, and I was like, well, that was pointless. My problems lie with Kelsey, because she is, I don't want to call her a Mary Sue because I think that gets used too often, but not only is she drop dead gorgeous, and then you find out she's this super rare female alpha wolf, but she only uses her powers for good. And then you find out at the very end, with like no setup for this whatsoever, she has magic powers. Right the fuck out of nowhere, magic powers. She can heal people. And I was like, huh? Say what? Yeah, it came right the fuck out of left field. Like, there's no indication before this point that she has any sort of magic powers. Because you find out with her backstory that when she was like 5, out of the triplets, she was the youngest, and her eldest sister was even at 5 years old turning into a mega manipulative bitch. And they were like, well, nope, we gotta execute them because they're out of control and we can't control them. Basically, like, the female alphas almost have, like, mind control over other wolves, that they can just be like, do as I say. Cause, like, yeah, it's the typical alpha wolf energy or whatever, that they can, like, force people to submit to them, but they can go, like, full mind control. But, even when she was a little girl, Kelsey was like, no, I only want to use my powers for good. At like 5 years old, her parents, end up escaping with her, but they get tracked down and killed. And I was just like, the one thing that I have a problem with this is that Kelsey does not remember her childhood in Bulgaria until it's convenient for the plot. Like, she doesn't even know that she speaks it, because the whole thing is, like, she gets caught when she's 12 years old. So yeah, like, her parents were on the run in the US for like 5 years, so I could assume like she speaks mostly English, but she was still 5 when they left Bulgaria. So I'm assuming she would have learned that as her first language. She would maybe have an accent or something, because then her parents get attacked and killed and she runs. She wakes up naked on the side of the road and people are like, oh, who is this little girl? And she just gets bounced through the foster system for the rest of life. But I was like, there's no... And again, I don't think they said she had amnesia. They say, like, specifically she, like, blacked out the next couple of days after the attack, which is fine. But then at the end, when they're like, oh, you're actually one of the triplets and blah, 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 she's like, oh, yeah, I remember my sisters now. I'm like, Why didn't you remember them before? This feels so just convenient. That, because if she'd known that, it would have. It's stupid. It's really stupid that they're like, oh, you're actually a witch. Just the witch thing just totally threw me off because there's zero indication up until the last part at the end that she has any sort of magical powers. And my other problem with it is, like, they talk about how these alpha females are so overpowered that, they're killed in, like, childhood. But then the Weston pack is like, fuck you, she's ours. She's a good person. We're not going to kill her. And I was just like, I don't know. I find it hard to believe that the wolf culture as a whole wouldn't be like, no, dude, she can, like, literally conquer every pack if she wanted to. But they're like, no, she's a good egg, and that's basically their justification for it. So yeah, the one thing I liked in theory with this romance is that Kelsey and Kyle have known each other for 2 years before they give into the whole mating thing. But the problem, it's just because they skip over it in its entirety, it's not even, I don't know, it feels like they still don't really know each other very well. It did not do it for me. I didn't hate it like some of the other ones, but I did not really care for it, and I will not be continuing on with this series. I think, because it's also the thing I realized with the mating thing, is that in Mystic Bayou, they do talk about mates and mating, though for them it's more of just a falling in love sort of thing. There's no if you die, I die, which is also in this one. It's not if you leave me, I'll die, but they have the linked if one of them gets hurt, the other one experiences the exact same injury. So in Mystic Bayou, they talk about mates, but again, it's more of a dating wife sort of title. It's not a smack dash fall in love sort of thing. And for the way the Mystic Bayou series handles it, it's not treated with the reverent severity I've found in a lot of these other werewolf things. That for them, yeah, it's like finding a mate is just finding someone you love. It's not like in a lot of the werewolf novels I've read where it's, you see them and you get smacked with the clue by four of, okay, here we go, you are now madly in love with them and will die for them within 24 hours, which I don't like, because I get it, it's shorthand to get to the good stuff, but relationships are more interesting when you actually take time to flesh them out. And the other thing I'll say with, like, this idea of the Grand Council that's like, no, we have to execute her, this plot, I think, is done better in the last book of the Night Hunters series. I won't talk about it because it is serious spoilers for the last book in that series, but I think it's handled better in that one. So, yeah, this one, not a fan. I will give it probably a 2.5 stars out of 5. Yeah, not a fan. Next up on the docket is Heart of Stone. I have just started listening to I'm like halfway through the first chapter right now. It is sounding kind of interesting. The main character, she seems to have some serious social anxiety. I kind of hope they actually keep that in and it's not just treated like a quirk of her personality, that it's actually handled with the severity of social anxiety that she has and it's actually treated appropriately. But yeah, so far only a little bit into that one. Should have it done in the next day or so. So yeah, I keep trying with these wolves. I think it's the mating thing that honestly puts me off of it for the most time. If someone could recommend to me a wolf romance novel where mating isn't involved, that would be amazing. So, as always, this is just my opinion. If you have any suggestions for books you would like me to talk about, leave a comment down below, and I will see you all in the next couple of days.